Hello, friends. Today we're taking a look at a different sort of movie monster. It's Kong. King Kong, to be specific. King Kong of Skull Island, to be super specific. So this King Kong figure is actually not based on Kong Skull Island, a movie from 2017 with Sam Jackson. I think it was 2017 anyways. It is actually based on a book called King Kong of Skull Island. Yeah, I know, the two little letters in the one word make a huge difference, right? That, from what I can tell, is from 2003, 2003. I don't know why I chose to say it 2003. That was weird. But I guess Mezco couldn't get the rights to Kong Skull Island or any King Kong actual movie, and so they pulled a NECA and found a legal loophole, and this is the King Kong figure that we got. But the first thing I noticed when I take him out of the packaging is this guy is hefty. He is a seriously weighty figure and bulky too, which makes perfect sense. I mean, he's King Kong after all. So I can't really comment on the accuracy of the sculpt because he is not based on Kong Skull Island, and he's not based on any movie, actually. He's based on a book. So this is pretty much an original Mezco figure from, unless there's very vivid descriptions in the book. I don't know. They probably described Kong as big and furry and like a gorilla. But speaking of fur, all this fur is sculpted so nicely. He just feels really nice in the hand, actually. I love the furry sculpt on him. And then his feet. Like, look at the skin wrinkles in there. Now, this looks kind of like a realistic primate when Kong is like giant, so maybe there should be even more wrinkles, I don't know. But from what I can see, the sculpt looks just terrific overall, except for the head. Now, King Kong's had some different heads in the movies, but this ain't one of them. Now, I know I said I wouldn't compare it to the movies, but I think they all kind of had better heads, but maybe Mezco had to change it a bit so that, they wouldn't infringe on anybody's copyright and get sued by Universal or whoever owns the rights now. I don't know. I love how the sculpt of the fur continues on the hands a little bit here. And same thing goes for the feet. Like, it doesn't just end where the foot starts and the articulation changes it up, There's like sculpted fur on top of the foot and it fades away ever so naturally. Very nice little details there. And then the face also has a bunch of wrinkles, but it also has like a scar, and it's sculpted there. And then there's scars on the chest, all sculpted lines. And I like how subtly they transition from the fur on the body to like the bare chest. Like, it really transitions pretty well. And then the scars look good, and they're painted good too. I like how they're red, like he's been in a recent battle. I also like how he's like pretty much black, but has like this brown wash. It really does look good. It looks, I don't know, you can like see him as black or brown, and it really fits, I think. He's kind of like a dark brown, actually, I think, now that it's getting a bit brighter in here, but paint's pretty clean. Let's take a look at the head, if we can. I mean, it's kind of hard to get up close to his eyes because they're so sunken in, but let's see what we can look at. Now, it's a little tough to see on camera because the eyes are really in there and they're really small, but Mezco did a terrific job. He's got these brown irises and pupils in there, and they're pretty clean. They even got like this glossy sheen, like you can see like light reflecting in the eyes. Really good. And then we get closer, I see like the scars on his brow, and I love how there's like a little brown wash on the eyebrows up here, and all the little wrinkles in his forehead. This head sculpt's kind of growing on me. Like, it looks, he's a gorilla, so he's supposed to kind of look like that, but I think his face is like a little too long. Like, King Kong did have a very humanish face in the first King Kong movie, the one from like 1933, which is part of what made him a monster. And I think they kind of got that in Kong Skull Island, where, yeah, his face doesn't really look like a gorilla. He's the monster, and that's what Peter Jackson didn't have. And that's why Peter Jackson's King Kong couldn't cross over with Godzilla, because he's like a giant gorilla, not a monster. Can't hold a candle to Godzilla, can't stand up against him. That's ridiculous. Anyways, sculpting the paint, all around good. Articulation, not so much. First of all, King Kong's head is on a weird reverse ball joint. Like, there's a ball in there, and then it rotates at the base for some reason. And like, you can't really just tilt his head up because that just pops his head off. What you can do is slide his head up, and he can look so far up and so far down. He can also get this left and right movement going, but side to side is kind of weird because like he can twist his head, but it's not, it's not like a normal figure twists his head. He can only twist his head so far and then, pops off. But thankfully the head is like kind of rubbery, so it can be a little bit flexible with you as you go, but eventually it will pop off. These shoulders are hinge and swivel, and they're a little bit stiff, but they can go up to 90 pretty much. and they can swivel all the way around, no problems there. The elbows are also hinge and swivel. They can go all the way around, no problems there. The hands are, I guess, on ball joints. They can swivel all the way around, and they can get some up and down motion going and some side to side. Wish it was a little more flexible, but it's all right. Now, the torso has what looks like a diaphragm, but it doesn't really go forwards or back at all. Side to side a little bit. I guess this is really just meant to swivel him around, and that's kind of it. No waist articulation, obviously, as you can see. The hips, I guess, are on ball joints. It's hard to tell because they are kind of stiff, but I can force them up so far, thus far, and they can go back just a little bit, and it's kind of hard to force it further because the sculpt on this fur is so hard and jagged it kind of hurts your hand, and he can't do the splits exactly. You can get him out so far, and they do rotate, so I guess there's a ball and swivel up there, but it's kind of hard to tell. I really wish the hips were more flexible. That's probably one of the most important parts of a figure. The knees are hinge and swivel. They don't go too far back or forward. Like, this is the most range you're really getting, but they do swivel around all the way. And then the feet, I guess, are ball joints, much like the hands. Don't go too far up and down, side to side, but they can swivel around, no problemo. So all the points of articulation are more or less there except the waist, but man, is it weird with the head, and you really want to pose him just by like moving his head, but then you always pop it off. And then those legs, they really need a lot more articulation, I think. I mean, I don't know how flexible real gorilla's legs are, but Kong's not a real gorilla. He should be able to move his legs. So here was King Kong in his packaging, and the big problem with it, even when there's no glare on it, is you can't see the figure inside really with that window box, because he's just way too far back there and covered in way too much plastic. Anyways, on the side we get this little logo, and in the fine print down there it says Copyright DeVito Productions 2013. And notice how it says King Kong of Skull Island, not Kong Skull Island, and that King Kong design's a little different. And I don't know what this artwork on here is. I guess it's the ruins of the, island he's on. Like, I guess that's kind of King Kong up there. Maybe statue of King Kong. I don't know. On the back we get some pictures of the figure, thankfully. So if you're buying this thing, the only way to know what you're really buying is to look at the pictures on the back. And again, King Kong of Skull Island. Fine print up there says 2013 DeVito Productions. Fine print everywhere on this box, on both sides and the back, says 2013, except on the very bottom down here, where it actually says Copyright 2018 DeVito Artworks LLC. So I don't know what's up with that. I'm guessing that DeVito Artworks got the rights to a book on King Kong in 2003-ish, and then Mezco made this figure in 2018. So that's my only explanation. Anyways, description on the back says King Kong of Skull Island figure features blah blah blah. He's 17.8 centimeters tall, highly detailed, comes with all these accessories. We'll see how true that is when we get to the scale. And this ain't the most collector-friendly packaging, but let's open it up and see what it's like. Oh my, how does this thing open? It's not coming out. Be on the bottom. Whoa! My goodness. Not that you'd ever be able to see it from the outside, but inside the box is a cool little jungle backdrop of Skull Island from one of the movies, I guess? Or maybe it's just some random jungle backdrop. Pretty looking, though. So let's see. Kong's got this protective tray up front, and I imagine it's holding everything in. Oh, tape on the sides. Let's cut this little tape here, and over here. What? One more piece of tape? What? What? One more piece of tape at the top corner for some reason? Why not the center? I don't know. Pretty much like a high-end import figure, his accessories are held in with a front piece of plastic tray, and he's got this little protective cellophane on front. Very nice packaging, Mezco, except for the fact that I couldn't see him when he was in it. So far, sculpt and paint have been pretty great, and packaging and articulation were kind of mixed, but where Kong really shines is the accessories. Now, King Kong's a character I would have settled for no accessories with, but Mezco went the extra mile and gave us some anyways. The first thing he comes with is an alternate roaring head, 2 alternate fist hands, an alternate right hand in a gripping pose, a tiny little blonde woman, and 2 iron shackles. As we saw earlier, Kong's head pops off pretty easily, and I'm sure the alternate head pops on pretty easily, and yep, it certainly does. And wow, does he look much better with this head. I'm keeping this one on for the rest of the review. I really love the glossy paint on the tongue and the gums, like, makes it look wet inside his mouth there, and oh wow, it's like all painted all the way to the back and the uvula, I think you can see back there. Really cool looking sculpt. And the teeth, great paintwork on the teeth, very clean. I like the little touches of dirt because, you know, he ain't brushing his teeth out there in the wild. Really cool alternate head, I think. Next up is this tiny woman Kong comes packaged with. I guess this is supposed to be Ann Darrow, but it doesn't really look like Fay Wray or Naomi Watts, but I guess it's supposed to be one of them because this is totally the type of dress she was wearing, and she was wearing slippers at the end of the movie, but neither one of those actresses lost a slipper, but that's a cool little touch they put on this little miniature figurine. The paint's fairly clean when you consider how small it is. Like, I mean, I don't think you can even see the straps on the camera. They're that thin and tiny, but they're painted pretty cleanly, although there's this big gross blotch on the dress here. And yeah, the face didn't come out so great, but I mean, they kind of got the black mascara and red lipstick fairly clean on there. Anyways, Kong can't really hold her very well in the right hand he comes packaged with. She just kind of lays flat on it, but you can kind of hook her around a finger, obviously. She seems to fit a lot better in the left hand, and this pose here lets you recreate the poster from the 1933 movie, and his right hand's like crushing a plane up there, but I don't have a plane for him to grab. I think it fits a lot better in the left hand, but we'll take a look at the other hands too. So Kong could kind of hold her in the left hand, so I'm kind of wondering what the right hand, the alternate right hand, is for. But let's pop it on, and that wasn't so bad getting that off. And that's not too bad to get it on. Let's see how fake Fay Wray fits in here. All right. Not too bad. I mean, she can't really squish her knees all the way down into the hand there, but I think this looks pretty good, don't you? Next up, Kong, of course, gets a couple of fists. Let's pop those on right now. Not too tough getting those on there. This is, of course, going to be awesome for fighting poses later. I like these hands so far. Then, hands down, the coolest accessories are the shackles. They seem to have real metal chains and a great brushed metal effect on them. And then the cool part, they have hinges that actually pop open. Why do they pop open? So you can hook them around Kong's wrists, of course, and they snap together and hold their place really well, actually. I'm pretty impressed. Now, I guess it's a little disappointing that we don't get, like, the big guard belt, because in both the original movie and the Peter Jackson movie, he has, you know, these shackles around his wrists and his ankles and this big guard belt, but we only get the 2 shackles here. And speaking of the ankles, it's kind of disappointing that these do not fit around there. And you see what I mean when I say that they clasp together pretty tight? I mean, you don't have to worry about them falling off, that's for sure. But unfortunately, they don't really fit around the ankles. There's like a huge gap and you just can't do it. Would have been nice if they were like another pair for the ankles, or the ankles were sculpted just slightly differently so these could fit around them, but it's no big deal. He really does look great with the shackles. I love this accessory. Another thing I love is the scale. Now, Mezco said this thing was about 17.78 centimeters tall, and that looks exactly right. He's almost 18 centimeters tall, which is about 7 inches. He's way too small to fit in with 6-inch superhero figures like Batman and Spider-Man, unless you want to pretend he's like Gorilla Grodd or normal gorilla instead of actually King Kong, in which case he's perfect. But what he's actually perfect for, and what the real reason Mezco made him 7 inches in the first place and gave him fists is so he can fit in with your SH Monster Arts Godzillas. Because y'all know that's why you're buying this guy, and Bandai ain't gonna give you a King Kong, at least not until Godzilla vs. Kong comes out. Anyways, these two just look spectacular together, so if that's the reason you're buying this set, well, it's a good reason to do it. So is this Mezco King Kong from King Kong of Skull Island worth your money, friends? Well, considering the fact that he's half the price of an SH Monster Arts figure and fits in perfectly with him, I'm gonna say yes. Now, he's not exactly the perfect representation of any of the Kongs from any of the movies, but I mean, I think that's kind of a good thing because he looks kind of like a pop culture conception of King Kong, and I think he also looks most like how King Kong looked on the poster, the illustrated poster for the 1933 original, so that's kind of cool. And besides, this is the King Kong you want, fighting Godzilla, not like the goofier 33 King Kong or the realistic Gorilla 2005 King Kong, or even like the actual King Kong that fought Godzilla in the 60s movie, because that one looked goofy as heck. This is a really cool King Kong, and his sculpt and his paint are great. Comes with more accessories than he needed to. My only real problems are I wish his head and his hands didn't pop off quite so easily, but other than that, he's a great figure. So go out and get him, friends. Until next time, peace out, YouTube.